I'm Najaswat for BizNews.com, and joining me today is Dr. Brett Lyndall Singh, who just made it to Forbes Africa's 30 under 30 list. Dr. Singh, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Nadia, for your time. Yes.
Tell me a bit about yourself.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Brett. I'm from KwaZulu-Natal, Umgungundlovu, born in Pietermaritzburg, and grew up in Howick in the Midlands. Um, I finished off high school at St. Charles College in 2010, and from a young age, I always wanted to be a medical doctor. When I was in high school, I had the pleasure of staying with my grandmom, and actually, while she was quite ill, uh, she had a heart attack. She was basically right next to me, and I didn't know how to perform CPR, and I basically failed resuscitating her, and that failure cemented the idea of me making sure that I go and equip myself with the right skills to help save lives. So anyway, in 2010, when I graduated from high school, I applied across the country to get a space in medical school, but I didn't get a space. So I got a good offer to study overseas in China. There was a scholarship available, so it was quite cost effective. I don't think I would be able to support myself if I was going to study in a Western country in Europe or in the States. It was going to be too expensive and not feasible. So, yeah, I just decided to take a leap of faith and go across to Asia. And yeah, I basically ended up being in China for 10 years. I completed my Bachelor's of Medicine and Surgery at Wenzhou Medical University in China's East Coast, and yeah, I was able to do some electives and rotations in the Royal Melbourne Hospital in Australia, and did some work in multiple Chinese hospitals. And yeah, I came back to South Africa in 2017, expecting to get an opportunity to join the workforce in public health. And once again, South Africa had other plans. I wasn't given the opportunity because of the Health Professions Council of South Africa. They had a moratorium on international medical graduates, and so they had basically told me that, Brett, you're going to have to wait 2 to 3 years just to write your board exam for you to even get into the system. This is when I've already got all of my qualifications. I've completed my pre-graduate internship. I've got all of my qualifications certified by the international body, which is the ECFMG. That's the International Medical Graduates Body in the United States, to basically show that the university that I went to was legitimate, the curriculum that I did was legitimate, and it's all up to a world standard. And yeah, South Africa had other things in mind. Bearing in mind we still have a huge problem with the ratio of patients to doctors in the country. So yeah, I decided to continue to develop myself, and I got an offer to do a fully funded scholarship for my master's. And so I prayed about what exactly I was supposed to do for my further qualification, and I was led to go into pediatrics. As you know, sub-Saharan Africa has the largest pediatric population on earth. We also have the fastest growing population, and 6 out of 10 of the fastest growing economies are in Africa. So, I mean, I was poising myself, getting ready for pediatric public health. And so yeah, I continued my studies. I finished off with my master's in medicine in 2020, and that's when COVID-19 broke out. So I was one of the few sort of African doctors, or even doctors in general, that was based in a state hospital in China during the original COVID. And so that's what actually catapulted me to sort of national influence in China, and also a sort of national platform, sort of globally, actually. Yeah. So, yeah, I was recruited to an anti-pandemic task force when I was at Wenzhou Medical University, Ewing Children's Hospital. And so my main job was to take care of the community that I'd been assigned to, with their daily upkeep of their medical health, and also at the same time having to be on a team to analyze the data of 5 pediatric patients that were infected with COVID-19. This was one of the very early cases. And so because the children's hospital that I studied at was a state level hospital, and it was a key provincial hospital, we had all the resources necessary to publish a strong, scientific article. And so when you have a master's degree in medicine, you have to actually also publish an SCI article, basically a peer review article. And I was able to publish mine in 2019. So I know what it takes to be a scientist. It's actually very difficult to publish, to get the funding. And so I was basically ready as a practitioner to be able to diagnose, but not only that, to be able to think clinically as well as a scientist of how to go about things. So basically, we were our protocol was used for the provincial response for treating kids with COVID, and so that data was published nationally, and so it basically got me in the same room with China's top epidemiologist at the time. If you remember, in 2020, China actually did quite well in the initial response of COVID. So they were able to contain the virus and get the economy back up and running 3 months later. What's happening right now with their zero COVID policy, I personally don't agree with, and a lot of the original epidemiologists also don't agree with. So yeah, during that time, in my studies of masters, I was invited by someone who I go to church with to join this business competition. And so he's a software engineer, and he basically said, Brett, we have this competition coming up. Can you please pitch this business plan in this competition? And I said, okay, it's a challenge. Let me go ahead and see what this is all about. So in 2017, I was introduced to the world of technology and startups. And so, yeah, basically, I joined the company as a co-founder and the chief evangelist. And my job was to go and raise capital to basically work on the business plan around a company that was basically in e-commerce. And yeah, that company did really well. We were able to secure, finally, after about 2 years, an estimated in South African rands value of around 50 million rands worth of seed funding to go and grow that company. So I learned through participating in more than 40 different competitions over 2 years how to build a business, how to scale it, what's the world of technology and raising capital and meeting investors. And one day a judge told me at this competition, she told me, Brett, you've got a great business concept, like the business model, the profit model is clear, but you're a medical doctor. Why are you involved in a technology startup? She said, go and marry that spirit of entrepreneurship with your medical field. And she said that the public will definitely want to invest in. So I really took that revelation and I ran with it.
So the byproduct of this marriage between entrepreneurship and medicine is your company Alpha and Omega Medtech.
Yes, Alpha and Omega Medtech is the company that we were able to launch, as our team's response to COVID-19. And so basically the most recognized work that we've done was we are able to develop the world's first China-South Africa COVID-19 rapid antigen test kit. And that test kit was later on approved by the European authorities, CE, and had a CE mark. We're able to get our first order of our test kits in the European market. And from 2020 onwards, I had already started to engineer my way back to South Africa to try and take the team that I worked with in China and all of the people that I've grown with back home. So Nadia, I don't know if you're familiar, but uh, sub-Saharan African students who want to do tertiary education, China has become the top destination for especially English-speaking students who decide to leave the continent. So there are more than 80,000 to 100,000 registered African students based in Chinese universities. And there are more than 500,000 of African diaspora based in China. And so basically, I was introduced to a lot of different Africans whilst I was in China, and it helped me grow my understanding of what I'm actually going to do when I come back home. And so we developed a database of all of these medical graduates and life science graduates that are African, that have studied in Chinese university and have gone back to Africa. So we use that as our first resource of how we're going to grow and expand our business on the continent. The main product that we started with was with a diagnostics product that was basically designed so that in areas that have minimal resources, where no PCR test can be done because there's no electricity or there's no expensive PCR machine and reagents to run that PCR machine. A rapid test would be the best, the next best, device for them to use. And so I basically was forced into the world of medical devices and healthcare management. So I took all of the experience that I gained as a medical, doctor, with working 5 years in a Chinese hospital, 9 years altogether in medical school, and now also being thrusted into China's response of COVID-19 and learning the whole Chinese strategy of how they implement different models in different cities and basically get everybody on board on whatever plan that they are trying to execute nationally, provincially, or citywide. And so I learned those techniques of how to, to develop a strong strategy to go forward. So yeah, basically we were recognized as one of the largest individual private companies to respond to South Africa's COVID-19 disaster, where we basically facilitated a donation of 25 million rands worth of COVID tests to the South African Medical Research Council in 2021, which was used for the Sisonke vaccine trial and some other studies that will be published, in the coming months and years. And I had the wonderful opportunity to work with some of South Africa's top scientists that were working during COVID from the sort of angle that I was, a South African doctor that was working in China, and I had been aligned to China's policy of how they go about their response. And now I'm working to sort of transfer some of that information across over here. So it was an amazing experience. And, currently we're working to expand our portfolio of medical devices. I'm currently the chairperson of the DTIC's National Healthcare Products Master Plan Global Value Chains Working Group. So I have the opportunity to work with South Africa's top institutional partners in medical devices and pharmaceuticals like SAMED, as well as MDMSA, which are South Africa's top two associations that are in medical technology and pharmaceuticals, as well as medical device manufacturing. And so basically we're working on, and my main role right now is basically unlocking the investment, the strategy, as well as the 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 main overarching concept of how to boost manufacturing of made in South Africa medical devices. So the sector is worth more than 21 billion rand, as cited by South African Medical Research Council in their 2022 study of the landscape analysis, and it's growing at a rate of about 6% compound annual growth rate. So it's one of our largest growing sectors, and it's the problem here that we have, Nadia, is we have a huge trade deficit. So we import 90% of our medical devices and consumables. So if you've gone and taken a vaccine or you've taken blood and you get a cotton, cotton wool to be used to help stop the flow of blood, that cotton wool is being imported from some other country. And we actually have the ability to manufacture the cotton here in South Africa, but the problem is the whole value chain is really distorted, and so the main buyers of these products would rather focus on making sure that the products that they procure are at a low price, rather than investing in the in our sector to help boost the value chain. And everybody saw during COVID that supply chains across the world was completely dismantled. And so it makes sense for us to try and localize some of that manufacturing and localize some of that skills development. Yeah. So I would say, in a real summary, yeah, we're basically a medical device company, and we have a strong portfolio in innovation of growing concepts that are the intellectual property belong here in South Africa. And obviously our products go through SAPRA, which is our regulator for medical devices, and all the products that are under our catalog are approved by SAPRA. And I would say the other main arm that we work with is skills development, where we try and help unemployed graduates in life sciences that cannot be placed. So people who have gone and done biomedical engineering, biochemistry, biosciences, health sciences, a lot of them have no jobs. And so we have created a sort of incubator to help these unemployed graduates connect with SMEs in the sector, as well as retired professionals, to bring them together in in the sort of hub. So yeah, that's basically what we've done in a sort of summary. Yes.
What other primary issues that the South African healthcare system presently faces do you think that Alpha and Omega Medtech could alleviate?
Yeah, so I really believe that we need to do something with the problem of our human capital being underutilized, as well as our existing infrastructure being underutilized. So in SAMRC's landscape analysis for medical device manufacturers, they found that approximately 40% of our approved, ISO approved facilities to manufacture certain medical devices are actually running at an under capacity. So we could actually be pumping out many more things. And we ourselves first need to service our own market, but we also have the opportunity across the AFCFTA agreement to also supply the rest of the continent with these medical devices if we're able to create these models. So I think the main problem we have, number one, is we don't use our human capital properly. We train certain people, they go to university, they get subsidized to go and study, and they don't have anywhere to go afterwards. So there's no long term plan of how to incentivize the growth of SMEs in the industry. So the whole medical device and pharmaceutical industry, especially in South Africa, Nadia, is tightly run by a very few companies. And if you're not part of that inner circle, and you're an SME or you're an innovation-based startup, you're gonna die. You're gonna definitely gonna die after, either because of your burn rate or because you don't have any customers or because you don't have a distribution network. There's a lot of barriers to entry into the market. We don't incentivize the growth of our SMEs in the industry. And as I already said, we actually valued at quite a big industry across the whole value chain in South Africa. So what the DTIC is working on is trying to formulate a formal master plan of how we can really incentivize SMEs in the sector, identify the top medical consumables that we need to produce here in the country, and make sure that the buyers give us the right demand so that companies like ours can flourish because we're getting a voluminous order. So as I said, capital, we need to employ these graduates, whether they're doing internships or they're at least knowing exactly what they need to do. And you can't tell someone who has got a very high qualification that they need to take an exam 2 years later, Nadia. That's really impossible to remember all the things that you studied. So we lose them to other countries, or that whole knowledge set that they've got gets lost because they literally are now unemployed. They have to go and look for a job at Checkers, and it's demoralizing for some of these really smart individuals that don't know what to do with themselves. And so yeah, we're just an example. We were recognized by Forbes as an innovative company, as as a company that is trying to employ, that's trying to create made in South Africa devices. And of course, platforms like BizNews, we are hoping to get more people to understand the issues that we are having here, and obviously try and see if there are people who'd like to join and also invest.
I had a look through your CV and your credentials, and honestly, it could constitute a person's lifetime achievements. So my question is, how much do you sleep on average a night, and what does your usual day look like?
Wow. Yeah. So, being a medical doctor and then also now being an entrepreneur, you know, you are driven by this burning desire to complete that vision that you have, and and my normal day would be, I obviously have a sort of checklist for myself for the week, and I make sure that I'm having my personal assistant to make sure that I'm supposed to complete all of my stuff, you know, on time. And I think what's important for me is that as I've now recently relocated to South Africa, I need to learn to bring myself to the grassroots level of the industry, and so I'm trying my best to meet everybody in the sector. I'm one of the youngest founders in my sector, so I have an opportunity over the next 10 years to grow this business, and And I think, yeah, it's just about having that passion to learn more as much as you
Mm.
can. As a doctor, you have to go through so much of content, and you're supposed to quickly digest it and regurgitate it as a diagnosis in a matter of 10 seconds. You must know exactly, if the patient has told you that I have a fever for 2 weeks, I already know at least five possible differential diagnoses. So a lot of founders you'll see who have engineering backgrounds or technology backgrounds. But as a founder who has had a medical background, I have the skill of knowing how to interact with people, to understand their story, and to make sure that I'm able to to get to solve the problem. I have to know what problem I'm solving. So as I said, in our company, we're solving the problem of having a lack of resources. Our public sector cannot, pay their staff. They cannot purchase resources to for our hospitals. So, but there is funds available. So there is definitely a mismatch of resources. Um, there's not a cohesive system where we can see incentives being given to grow SMEs. We can see opportunities for unemployed graduates to be placed in areas, and I think it's all about just being given an opportunity. Nadia, for all of the rejections that I've had, you know what I mean, rejected to go to medical school, rejected to get into the workforce. I'm sure most entrepreneurs you will interview have a similar background. Because they weren't given a chance, they created a chance, not only for themselves but for others. And so I think that's where the value lies. Making sure that we bring the diaspora back. I'm just an example of someone who educated themselves outside of South Africa, but saw the potential that we have, over the next couple of years. And I'm doing my best to also attract the other guys to come back and say, hey guys, come back. There's actually a lot of opportunity here. We can actually do something. And yeah, we do need their support. So yeah, I think it's not so much about me. I just need to make sure that uh, that if the vision is making South Africa's main goals, like youth unemployment, we're at least solving that problem in our sector, then I'm very happy. For example, the Department of Small Business told us that we need to create 9 million jobs by 2030, SMEs in South Africa. And so for my sector in healthcare, we have to create 1 million jobs. So that's our goal, basically. If we can create platforms or help systems to create 1 million jobs in our life sciences sector, then I would say we have done a good job. But yeah, I think we just have to keep on going, and I believe we'll get there. Yes.
Dr. Brett Lyndall Singh, thank you again. I'm Najaswat for BizNews.com.